if you start looking at people on your list, everybody's got a chicken list. They've got somebody that they're a little chicken to talk to. They're intimidated by their stature, by their status, by their success, who they are, their recognition. And so that's, if you're going to pick up the phone, that's been one of the hardest calls to make, is some of those people who you think might just, you might prejudge them not being interested in what you've got to offer. Those kind of people are quicker to make a decision. When they do, they've got resources. They're able to build a network faster than people who are just going to be product users. So I would definitely find in any town where those kind of people congregate, whether it's a restaurant that they go to, whether it's a club that they go to, whether it's whatever, just find those kind of people. Because the worst thing that you ever want to hear is, why didn't you call me last week? I just signed up with somebody else.
Welcome to MLM Nation, a podcast of leaders, by leaders, for leaders, hosted by Simon Chan. He's built a team of over 200,000 and is now a full-time MLM coach and trainer. So if you're ready to level up your business, join us now. Let's do this.
MLM Nation, this is Simon Chan, and I'm fired up to bring our special guest today, Ed Wiens. Hey, Ed, are you ready to make it happen?
I am ready, Simon. It's good to be with you.
Ed Wiens was born to missionary parents and grew up in Alaska, Peru, and South America. He followed his parents' footsteps into full-time ministry and missions. He was eventually introduced to network marketing, the concept of network marketing, while in high school, and then later on embraced it so he could independently fund his ministry interests. Ed has over 30 years of MLM experience and has earned millions in lifetime commissions. Currently, he's a multiple six-figure earner with a team of over 30,000 people. So, Ed, I've given MLM Nation a brief intro, but take us back to the day when you're young, your background, and how did you eventually, how did you hear about network marketing, and why did you eventually embrace it?
Yeah, that's it's cranking it back a few years, Simon. I'm going to age myself here. Let me tell you a little interesting sideline. I got close to network marketing before I ever knew what it was. My parents were both natives of Idaho. And so in between missionary assignments, we lived in southwestern Idaho, and we attended a church pastored by a gentleman named Emmanuel Rohn. Emmanuel had a son named Jim. And so when I was a boy of like 8, 9, 10 years old, I met Jim Rohn way before anybody really knew, I guess, who he was. And of course, later on, I learned what a legend he was, and learned all I knew when I was a kid was that our pastor's son was real rich and sold vitamins. And of course, he was one of the absolute pioneers of the concept of network marketing, and later became known as America's foremost business philosopher. But I guess my first real introduction, Simon, was literally in high school. I walked into the garage of some of my mom and dad's friends, and I knew this gentleman was a realtor, and he had rental properties and sort of a carpenter builder. But I looked around his garage, and it was lined with shelves and lined with products. And I remember saying, I was a senior in high school, I said, what is all this? He said, these are products that we sell, and he says, we earn a commission on these. And then he said something that was, to me at that moment, magical. He said, if we recruit other people to sell these products, we make commission when they sell them. And I thought, you have got to be kidding me. There's a concept like that. I mean, I'd been living out of the country for years, and it kind of just stirred up, I guess, some juices in my mind, because my very first income producing activity was in a fishing village in Alaska, when my dad would catch crab, mom would boil them and put them in a bucket, and I would go door to door selling boiled crab. And then I sold newspapers on the street corner of Juneau, Alaska, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and then sold greeting cards that you could order from the back of comic books and earn prizes. So when I found out there was something that you could market and then recruit other people to leverage the efforts of other people, I just had never heard of anything like that. It was an amazing. I was stunned. And of course, later on, I learned that was probably before it was even called network marketing. But that was my introduction way back then.
So how old were you when you eventually joined network marketing? And What were you doing at that stage in your life?
Like I say, you said I sort of followed my parents' footsteps, and I worked in the nonprofit arena. I worked for churches. I worked for nonprofit organizations, and I was actually working for a large social service agency. It was a religious-based, not social service. We offered a whole host of services to some of the very needy folks of our community. And that's when I kind of first ventured into. I think I first became a distributor my early 30s, long time ago, and I, had some relative success with that. Of course, it was just something in addition to what I was already doing. It was definitely a plan B, but it just kind of planted in my mind the seeds of the possibilities of this industry. And I learned a lot. Great educational forum. I got exposed to a lot of great personal growth materials, which were, we've often said in this business, Simon, this is a personal growth business opportunity disguised as a business. And it was that for me. So I learned a lot. And then in the early 90s, I got led to another company that was kind of my first home run. Use a little baseball analogy. I know you're a baseball fan, as am I. And that was my first real success. And I went full time in the industry in the early 90s, maybe mid 90s, and I've never looked back. It's kind of been what I've done professionally ever since.
So, how much time elapsed between the time you first got started in the early 90s until you start having success, until your first home run?
Approximately 10 years. Yeah, just about 10 years.
What was the turning point, or what was the something that happened that made you?
Yeah, well, the initial success I had was good, but it also the other activities almost became full-time demanding, and the pay wasn't full-time, but the effort required was. And then there were changes that happened with me professionally, happened within the organization I was a part of, and so I sort of ventured out of network marketing. And then I thought, okay, I guess maybe I've been there and I've done that, and maybe I'm vaccinated and never catch that disease again. But it kind of snuck in back under the radar through an amazing product experience in the early 90s. And then I realized that this was when you had something that was impactful, that enabled you to really tap into your entrepreneurial drive. The switches just all flipped again, and I pursued it.
Was it because of the commitment and time you could put into it, or is it more like something you learned or a change in mindset shift that allowed?
Yeah, it was. I just had ambitions, Simon, that I knew were bigger than I could expect any agency or any organization to accommodate it. We say after you've been in this business a while that you become psychologically unemployable, and that really kind of tongue in cheek, but it's kind of true. And I just reached a point where I just knew I wanted to do things with my life. I wanted to live out my purpose, my why, in a way that I knew was not going to fit within the constraints of a corporate setting. And people need to realize that even if you're in ministry and working in the nonprofit religious world, that can be as corporate as working for any high-rise bank, insurance company, or any corporation. And I just knew that if I was going to attain the resources, which are time and money, to be able to pursue my life the way I wanted to, I didn't see any other way to really reach that than through the power of the mechanism of network marketing. And I just became a believer in the concept.
How have you seen the industry change over the years? And I guess the question is, they're both good and bad.
Yeah. Well, I've seen, I was around before it was legitimized legally. I remember when, the Amway Corporation took on the federal government to literally fight for the survival of the industry. So every company owes them a debt of gratitude just because they paid a lot of money to say back off to the government. And then laws were established, parameters were established to kind of give birth to the industry. And then that was watching that happen was amazing. But I think probably the biggest thing, this is a word of mouth driven business. Word of mouth, Simon, in the history of business word of mouth has always been the way that marketing has taken place. Conventional advertising didn't even become a thing until sometime in the 1800s, when medium was developed that you could sort of then leverage. But up until then, if you were a craftsman, if you were a widget maker, or whatever at the marketplace, word of mouth is really what made your business fly or not fly. And so today, to have the communication technology that we have, that the internet and communication technology has really been a game changer, because today we've all got these devices within reach of us almost any time, and it's just expanded our ability to reach. Our word of mouth has a potential ripple effect today that we've never known in the history of mankind. And I think that's what's really powerful today. And of course, to have thousands of companies that now recognize that this is the most effective way to distribute a product or a service. Reviews rule the marketplace today. If you're going to book a cruise, eat at a restaurant, buy something, you're going to find out what are people saying. And so word of mouth, even though a lot of money is spent in conventional advertising, eventually it comes down to word of mouth. And there's nothing that harnesses the power of that like network marketing.
Going back to your late 90s days, not when Jim Rohn was a kid, that days, but when late 90s, do you see people more open to network marketing now? Like easier to recruit, or is it just still the same?
I think it's there's probably some differences within certain age parameters. A lot of folks, my age, and I'm in my early 70s. I was introduced. I'll say a quick story, and this happened 50 years ago. Okay, 50 years ago, I was in Bible college, and I was applying for a job. I had an interview set for a job selling menswear at a mall. It was going to be my job while I was working my way through school. Another guy and I had interviews at the same time, and so we're walking through the door into this big menswear store, and this guy reached out and stopped us, and he said, "Hey, you guys look like a couple of sharp young guys. Are you looking for a job?" And of course, when you're in Bible college, Simon, you're kind of in a spiritual fog half the time anyway, I think. And so we thought, guy must be an angel. How did he know? Yeah, we're going in here to apply for a job. And we told him that. He says, "Oh, listen, I got a deal for you." So we stopped, listened to his deal. He says, "Are you married?" "Yeah, we both just got married this past summer." "Listen, tonight, such and such a time at a restaurant, got a free dinner." Well, he had me a free dinner. I mean, I was just okay, free dinner, I'm in. Come down and we're going to show you an amazing opportunity. And the crazy thing is that we didn't even go through with the job interview. We turned around, went home and told our wives, "Hey, God has intervened today. We're going to go to dinner tonight." We went to dinner, and after dinner, we went into a back room, and it was the most high-pressured network marketing pitch. People up on their chairs, jumping up and down. Thank God I didn't have $3,000, or I'd have got in that night. The leader of that organization eventually went to prison. Of course, this was kind of before the rules were really established to give guidance to the industry. So I guess that was a real introduction to network marketing 50 years ago, right about this time of the year. And so there are people who got introduced to network marketing kind of back in that era, 70s, 80s, whatever, and they still carry with them today the perception of some historical encounter, perhaps with some overzealous distributor, and so they just carry that with them today. And I just think the younger generation doesn't necessarily have that bias, I think, which is a healthy thing. But there's a lot of folks that are still kind of stuck in the 40-40-40 plan. You work for 40 years for a company, 40 hours a week, and retire on 40% of what you couldn't live on when you were working. But there's still folks that are in that time and money exchange mentality. I think what we have to get good at, Simon, and this is another whole track that we could perhaps talk about sometime. We know what we have in this industry. You know what you have if you're listening to this. You know what you have in your company, your product, or your service. What we have to get good at is fishing. Fishing is making what you have look attractive to whoever you're trying to present it to. And I have a whole talk on this, Simon. I know you and I connect on the same level when it comes to our faith basis. But the original network, I'm just going to give you a little snippet of this. The original networker only sponsored 12. And that program, by the way, is still going. So, saturation's a myth. It'll never happen. And one of those guys only thought about was the money, and he didn't make it. So, but what he told those personally sponsored recruits, some people are going to think I'm sacrilegious bringing this up, but hey, it's my background, so I can refer to my back. If I was a plumber, I'd be talking about pipes and joints and whatever, and I'm talking about my background. He says, I'm going to make you not hunters, not carpenters, not pottery makers, not farmers, fishermen. I'm going to make you fishermen, fishers of men. And so, of course, some of them were fishermen. And they were actually working with nets, so they were already networkers. Pardon the poor joke there. But to me, the concept of this business is a fishing concept. I grew up in a fishing village. I learned to fish in Alaska. I got great fishing stories. But there's a difference between hunting and fishing. And when you're hunting, you're pursuing what you're after with something it has no interest in. But when you're fishing, you're trying to attract what you're after with something that hopefully looks attractive to the fish. If you spot your friend at the end of the grocery store aisle and they see you and you go running to try to find them and they've disappeared, you might have been hunting and they see you coming. But in fishing, we've got to get good at making what we have as an industry, as a product or a service, look appealing. And thankfully, the more you learn how to do that, I have a whole talk we can do just on fishing tips. But I think that's what really sets the successful people apart in this business is they've learned how to fish and to make what they have look appealing and attractive to the people that they want to bring into their business.
When you brought that up, one of my big aha moments in my career was because I was always looking, once I got to a certain size, like my team stagnated. I want to say, how do I create a culture? How do you get them to get bigger? And my aha moment was, I realized the most successful network marketing company, right? If you take it from a non-spiritual perspective, is the church, like you said, right? If you want to duplicate, that's why events are important. The church meets every Sunday. They don't do Zooms and stuff. Yeah, when they did Zooms, attendance fell off, right? I just started copying what the church was doing, social events, church barbecues. We had a barbecue. That was a big aha moment for me. But you talk about fishing tips. I want to know, what are some of those fishing tips?
Well, that's a whole podcast. I got a list of certain things about the difference. You go fishing. You've got to go where the fish are. And I got some great stories about going to the marketplace. Today, virtually, we can go places we've never been able to go before. So definitely you've got to go fishing. There's some subtlety involved in fishing. There's coaching involved. If you go fish world-class, I've been to world-class fly fishing ranches, and I've been to places where I've never fished before. You better have a guide to help give you some direction and guidance and help teach you some of the nuances of that particular kind of fish and know where the fish are. If you get a big one on, you may want to get someone to literally help you land that. I mean, there's all kinds of connections you can make to this business and the whole, the whole analogy of fishing. I just think it just fits. There's a reason why we're fishers of men in a larger context, because fishing is I don't care what business you're in, whether it's insurance sales or marketing or anything. There's a fishing component to that where you're gonna expand your net and bring people in. You've got to learn how to deal with people. Maybe that was part of my attraction early on too, Simon. Is I just early on was in front of people. Just growing up in the world that I did with my parents, I was up in front of Sunday school classes. I was translating for missionaries when they came to speak, and so I learned that and I watched the principle of service to humanity be lived out as an example in my home, and I learned the value of just service to people. And I love what Zig Ziglar has taught all of us in this industry, and I was privileged to be personally mentored by Zig for a few years, and still friends with his son Tom. If you brought Tom on a Zoom call today, you would see on the big screen behind him the quote that his dad made famous, and that was simply this: if you help enough people in this life get what they want, you can have anything that you want. So servant leadership is definitely an attribute of this business. Even the management style and the personal guidance style of the master comes into play. I mean, he had a couple of guys come up to one time and said, "Hey, when you set up your program, can I be number one and he be number two?" And he said, if you want to be a big deal in my program, he says, you got to become a servant. And so servant leadership, I've learned that. I've tried to model that and live that out. And I think that people who really learn how to build this business learn how to connect with people and serve people and meet people at their level of need.
One of my turning points too early on was that quote: "If you help enough people get what they want in life." I think the thing I always knew about servant leadership, I heard about it, but I think that the key word for me was enough people. I think a lot of people think I have to help the whole world, I have to help everyone. No, it's like fish. Getting back to what you said, fishing. Just help enough people, the ones that want it, and you can have everything you want.
We always say that in this business, if you do the right things enough, you'll succeed. A lot of people do the right things, just not enough. Some people do enough, but not the right things. And so it's the combination of the two. But I love the emphasis on the enough.
What are the right things, really quickly?
Well, obviously, connecting to people, getting enough people in the discovery pipeline of your business, moving them through that discovery process, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a Zoom call, it's a three-way call, it's attending a webinar. You've got to get enough people exposed to that are moving down that thoroughfare of discovery till they get to a decision point, either become a customer or join you in the business. And that's part of the enough. You've all seen the illustration of the guy in the tunnel, and he's digging a mine, and he's like just a foot away from the mother lode, and he gives up. When he's that close to success. So enough can be a lot of different things, but it's a people business. Enough people.
This is my favorite question, especially with someone with so much experience like yourself. In all your years, what is your worst moment in network marketing? But you didn't give up, and that's why you are where you are today.
I think when you've got a level of belief in your program, your product, your service, especially if it's something that has the ability to impact people in a dramatic way. And people need to know what you know. They need to discover what you've been blessed to discover. But you want it for them worse than they want it. That's always disappointing. You know how bad they need it. You know how beneficial it would be, but you can't make them see that. But again, I come back to, the strategy of the masteries is when you send out as 2x2, you go into a town, they don't accept you, shake the dust off your feet and move on. That's hard to do when you've got a heart of compassion and you want to see people help, but you've got to do that just to keep on. There's somebody else out there with the old SW, stop whining, start working. Someone's waiting, and just keep going. I think that sometimes a lot of companies, in this industry, because it's potentially so lucrative, a lot of companies are born around somebody's business plan, and then they go looking for a product or service to market. And to me, that's the cart before the horse. I think when you've got a company that's a revolutionary product or an innovative service, and then they decide to strategically connect it to this marketing model, that's the right way it should happen. So consequently, there's a lot of people in the corporate side of this industry that make decisions not in the best interest of the field. And I've seen that. I've experienced that. And that's some of the down times of the business is corporate decisions that impact the people in the field.
Hey, Amanish, I don't know if you caught that. Those 3 W's. I love it. Stop whining, start working, someone's waiting.
Yeah.
Like you said, go out there and fish. You gotta get there and fish.
Keep going. Excuse me, that every cast, you're not going to catch a fish. You know that, logically. But your belief and your mindset is that this cast is going to be a record setter. And so you just keep at it. You keep at it. There's going to be days when you go fishing where you're skunked. There's going to be days when you hit your limit in the first hour. So just keep fishing. Keep fishing.
How important is consistency to your success?
I'm talking to Mr. Consistency here today. That's one of the drum beats that you pound on all the time, but it's absolutely crucial. It's that's that's the name of the game in any industry. You and I are baseball fans. We got a minor league team that plays just right across the street from where I live here. Probably go watch a game tonight. And I watch, and we're a single A team, so it's the new guys that are just arriving at the threshold of trying to make it to the bigs, and so they're working hard to try to not be here. We know that as fans here locally. If they do well, we're not going to see them for long. There's guys now in the major leagues that started here, but the guys who apply themselves consistently to incrementally, I mean, they're already good. They wouldn't even be at this level. They're already good. But the difference between mediocrity and excellence is sometimes just the subtleties, the little things. It's a change of I don't know the exact numbers here, but if you look at somebody who's a 200% 200 hitter, 2 bats out of 10 times, 2 hits out of 10 times at bat, they're probably not going to cut it in the major leagues. But if they can just get one more hit per 10 times at bat and bat 300, that could be a Hall of Fame career. And the difference in earnings between a 200 hitter and a 300 hitter could be millions over the course of a career. But the difference to get from one level to the other is the little tiny subtleties, change in a grip, change in a stance, watching the pitcher's delivery, catching where he's got the ball, what kind of pitch might be coming. It's the consistent batting practice. It's the little things done day in and day out, that make the difference between perhaps bouncing out of the minor leagues and making it to the major leagues. So consistency is obviously a key in anything that we're going to succeed at in life, and certainly in network marketing.
Yeah, and getting back to baseball, it's like the small little things that you said, the change in stance. And you only get that through consistent work that you realize.
Absolutely. And coaching, good coaching. You're a coach. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you always, astounds me, like someone that hits 333 or 300, right? That's out of 10 at bats. There's not even one extra hit. It's only 0.03, 0.33, right? But over 100 at bats, there's not that many hits. There's only 3 extra hits. But over 1,000, that's the difference. That's like 33 more hits, and that's the difference between making $50 million and a Hall of Fame player versus a really still good player making $10 million.
So if you're in this business,
not be a Hall of Fame, right?
Just figure out what are the little subtle things that you can do to maybe up your game. Just a little difference. It's not a huge, I'll give you a fishing example. I was in Alaska. We were fishing on the famous Kenai River, which is world famous for catching king salmon. Or they're out in the middle of the river, and if you're along the edge of the river, you're catching the reds. And they're feeding. They're going up the river to spawn, so they're really not feeding a whole lot. You kind of have to bounce them in the nose and sort of snag them. And so I was, you talk about go fishing. We had to go fishing to get there. And the bank is when they're running, it's called combat fishing because there are people that line the bank. Like every 10 feet, there's somebody on certain spots on the river, and everybody's kind of got the same motion. And so I was there. I'd been to LL Bean in Maine, and I bought my fishing gear. I had all the right gear. I had the right pole. I had everything that you had to have. And I'm up there, and I'm not catching a thing. And the person on my right is catching fish, and the lady on my left is catching fish, and I'm skunked. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? My buddy's about 2 or 3 people down, and we're going like this. What's the deal? And we're doing everything everybody else is doing. Finally, I look down to my left, and my friend's starting to catch fish. And I'm thinking, what's happening? What am I not doing right? And he came over to me. He says, hey, somebody came up and gave me a tip. We don't have quite enough weight on. Add like 1/4 of an ounce of lead to your weight. That made all the difference because it just dropped the lure down a little bit deeper to where they were. And as soon as I did that, we're catching fish. So the subtle adjustments could be the difference between being skunked and taking home a limit. So connect the dots, whatever that might be in your business. What kind of adjustments can you make to increase your batting average or to put fish on the bank?
And I think it's really important. Like a lot of people listen to it, they want to make the adjustments, but what they don't do is they may be consistent in business, but not consistent in the same approach. Right? Going back to your fishing, if you were there just for 5 minutes, didn't catch, and you went, oh, this must be the bad part of the river, whatever, let's go somewhere else, you will never discover that subtle difference. It's only your friend stayed in there and realized it was the weight. Right. It's like
Exactly.
you
Somebody
see
came and
this,
offered him a tip.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see the same thing in network marketing where they're reaching out a certain group of people, or they say they want to target people who are 70 plus, right? And they, oh, I talked to 10 people, they're not interested, they're too old, whatever. And they never been in that market talking to the same people, fishing that same pond long enough to find those subtle differences. So,
Absolutely. But listen, there are also some things that you can't control. There's weather shifts. If it's raining, depending on where you're fishing, if the tide's at a certain level, you can't control those. And you might, if you try to fish in those conditions, you might have a lot less success than at other times. But when fishing is good, when the circumstances are right, all the elements are right, I mean, that's an exciting time. And I just say that to say this, for our business, this is a great time. I mean, conditions are right. The economy's right. The portability of our business. I mean, we sometimes say it's an at-home business, but truthfully, it's a phone-based business because we have devices with us now that take our business anywhere. I can travel to multiple countries and I'm still in business. I don't have the overhead. I don't have employees. I mean, conditions are right now. People are looking for ways to do what our business allows them to do. So this is the time to get in the boat, get out on the river, get in the bank, whatever, and get your lure in the water because there's two good things about this. It's open season and there's no limit. It's open season and there's no limit.
So true. Hey, thank you so much for sharing. You've been amazing, Ed. Love the fishing stories and the baseball. As you wrap up, some quick questions to prick your brain. Okay. First one is, what is one of your favorite? I guess you mentioned that already, Zig Ziglar. Do you have another quote that you also like?
Yeah, things come to those who wait, but only what's left over from those who hustle. Okay, I'll repeat that. Things come to those who wait, but only what's left over from those who hustle. I love never believe your doubts, never doubt your beliefs. Never believe your doubts and never doubt your beliefs. I found a book the other day, Simon. I was going through the storage unit and I found a book written by one of the greatest networkers in the history of the business, passed away a couple of years ago, a guy named Dexter Yeager. And the title of his book was Don't Let Anybody Steal Your Dream. Don't let anybody steal your dream. Keep your dream alive. Keep your dream alive. God gave you the capacity to dream. We're dreamers by nature. You watch a little kid, a little toddler learning how to walk, the determination that it takes to get across the room, consistent effort, that dream to get from here to there. And somehow when life gives us a few setbacks and knockdowns, we give up on that little simple dream of just getting from point A to point B. So never stop dreaming, ever.
What's one habit that's helped you become successful?
Reading. Leaders are readers. Today, you've got the added convenience of being able to listen to audibles. Some of the greatest material that's personal growth. Your business is gonna grow in proportion to how you grow as a person. And today, we have the ability to be able to take books, world-class material with you wherever you go. So become a listener, become a reader, become a communicator with a mastermind group. I think there's the power of mastermind groups. We have a group I met with this morning, leaders in our business. Got people with my team that I meet with on a regular basis. That mastermind effect is absolutely crucial. There's a rhythm to the business. There's a daily rhythm, there's a weekly rhythm, there are monthly things, there are annual things. I mean, our whole universe functions on the basis of rhythm and the tides, the seasons, and all of that. So just get in the flow of the rhythm of your business, your company, your team, and just stay consistent with it. Go to meetings. You talked about that earlier. When you're up, the meeting needs you. When you're down, you need the meeting. And be consistent with attendance.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Well, in a health product sense, what was from a medical profession, he says, may you never know what you prevent. I'm all about prevention. Thankfully, our business, our industry is full of great health products that help people just maintain this vehicle that we're all given. What was your first car, Simon? First car you ever had?
Ford Explorer.
Ford Explorer. Okay, mine was a 50 Chevy. Okay, it was 20 years old when I bought it. A 50 Chevy. And I often will ask an audience this: what if you were told when you got that first car that was the only car you're ever going to have? Your entire driving life was going to be that vehicle. How important would preventive maintenance be? I love the fact that I fly a lot. Preventive maintenance is a big deal in the aviation industry. Well, you were issued one vehicle when you entered this race called life, and it's your body. So take care of your body. Take care of your health. Our industry is full of products to help you optimize who you are. You're no good to anybody else if you're not here. So take care of your body. That's an important thing. And I guess the other thing is just the best piece of advice is get started and don't quit.
Yes, never quit. What's your favorite prospecting tool you use? So say you have a qualified prospect. Do you get on the phone with them? Do you send an audio note? Do you get on Zoom? Do you send a video first? What do you like to use, Ed?
I think it's a combination of things. I don't just have one lure in my tackle box. I've got business cards with the website on it that I'll give to people. I have samples of some of our products that are easy to give out and easy for people to trial and experience and get immediate results with. We certainly have webinars that we steer people to on a regular basis. I like to just be a really good listener. When I'm with somebody, we're in a social setting. I don't jump up and down and try to browbeat everybody into listen to what I got every time. Sometimes it's just a matter of listening to them and getting to know them. And you want to be ready when people ask you the reason of the hope that lies within you. Be ready with an answer. But live your life in such a way that people might ask questions. People might be curious. So I try to elicit that kind of response to the point where I'm responding to something that they're asking. I tell people all the time, my wife said, every time we do a call with a prospect or someone that's kind of looking at this, we'll say, we don't want to spend time answering questions you're not asking. So you're in charge of this conversation, or where would you like to take it? So we practice being good listeners.
What's your favorite app on your phone that's not a social media app?
It's not a social media app. I've got a calendar. I book a lot. I keep track of my life in a calendar. So Facebook social media app. I've been using that a long time. So I guess I can't mention that one there. I shouldn't mention ESPN. I don't look at that all that much anyway. But it is there. Let me grab it real quick. Let's see. I've got ones that pop up initially. I've got travel related stuff. Keep track of my Delta miles and I got banking stuff on here. I look at the weather app a lot.
Cool.
I got a game here that I love word games. I use my camera a ton. I buy the updated phones on that just for the camera. If you came into the lobby of our condo where we live, all of the artwork in the lobby are canvases that are all taken with an iPhone. I took them in different parts of the world. So
that's cool.
I'll buy a new phone just for the camera. So I take a lot of pictures. But my camera's one of my favorite apps. Just a camera, definitely.
What are 2 or 3 books you could recommend?
One of the books that was really probably been one of the most impactful books that I've ever read outside of the Bible was Dennis Waitley's book, 10 Seeds of Greatness. It's out of print. You can certainly go to Amazon and get a used copy someplace, but it's just 10 character principles that help determine success. 10 Seeds of Greatness. I've taught that. I've digested that book. I've taught it to our business teams. I've taught it in churches. So that definitely is one of the top of my list. Zig stuff is great. I've just got I just found one of my old copies of See You at the Top. I've got Og Mandino's stuff. I think GoPro is one of the great books Eric Worre has generated for us in this industry. Just a good primer on the concept of this business model. So I like to read. I don't read a lot of fiction stuff. I like to read personal growth, nonfiction related stuff, some of it related to the business. That's a short list.
And here's the last question, Ed, the $1 million question. You ready?
Okay.
Imagine you had to start all over again and you knew no one. You didn't have any family. You didn't know your wife. You didn't know anyone. You're like an alien that went to another universe. But you had all your current knowledge, skills, and wisdom. What's the first thing you do or the first place you go to build a network marketing business from scratch?
I just was a guest last week at a networking breakfast in our town, and everybody's there. They're business people. I would probably seek some of those out there. I mean, they're in every town. There's different kinds of networking groups, and a lot of them they're people, business owners trying to make a buck. I would go there. I think some of the service clubs in town. I was president of the Kiwanis Club in the Pacific Northwest, one of the biggest clubs in the whole area. That's full of people who are movers and shakers and business owners. I would definitely try to find out where decision makers are. It's interesting, Simon. I'll just kind of divert just a second here. Everybody, if you start looking at people on your list, everybody's got a chicken list. They've got somebody that they're a little chicken to talk to. They're intimidated by their stature, by their status, by their success, who they are, their recognition. And so that's, if you're going to pick up the phone, that's been one of the hardest calls to make, is some of those people who you think might just, you might prejudge them not being interested in what you've got to offer. And let me just say this. Those kind of people are quicker to make a decision. When they do, they've got resources. They know people. They're able to build a network faster than people who are just going to be product users. So I would definitely find in any town where those kind of people congregate, whether it's a restaurant that they go to, whether it's a club that they go to, whether it's whatever. Just find those kind of people. And let me just give your audience a quiz. If you call up someone like that who's kind of on your chicken list, what's the worst thing they could say? What's the worst thing you could hear? I'll pause for a second while you think about it, because most of you right now, you're answering that question. Well, the worst thing they can say is no. And let me tell you that if that was your answer, you failed the quiz. Because the worst thing that you ever want to hear is, why didn't you call me last week? I just signed up with somebody else. And I've had that happen. It hurts worse than no. So your assignment, class, is find those 2 or 3 names or more on your chicken list this week and call them in the next couple of days. Call them, because they just might see what you have to offer quicker. You don't know. They might be in a severe case of need of what you have. And if they say yes to take a look at the next piece of information or join you, they're going to know people. They're going to leverage their resources and their contacts and move your business forward a whole lot more than, not to minimize the product users, but than someone who's just going to use the product. You want to look for networkers, not just customers. You want both. You need both.
That is awesome. I love that nugget to go. The worst thing that can happen, the worst thing is not no, is I actually joined someone else. So true. Hey, Ed, you've been amazing. Any last words? And then what's the best way our listeners and viewers can connect with you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook, obviously. Ed Wiens. There's one other guy up in Canada that got the same name, but not that hard to find. I certainly can give you an email. My email, I'll just give you my email. I'll give you my cell phone for that matter. I don't care. Call me on the phone, 910-723-8866. 910-723-8866. I was with a business owner some years ago. He's passed away now. And I told him when I was with him, I said, you know what's amazing about you? And he had a big business. I said, you always answer your phone. He says, he'd read a management book years ago by Maxwell Maltz. He said that successful people answer their phone. And I've never forgot that. So if I don't answer, it's because I'm tied up right then. I'll get back to you. You can certainly text me at that number. You can look for me on Facebook. Last name is Wiens, not EI. And you can email me. It's edwiens@icloud.com. edwiens@icloud.com.
And our mission, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And today you've been hanging out with Ed Wiens. So keep up the momentum and go to mlnation.com. Click on the podcast tab at the top, and the show notes will pop up, including Ed's his link to his Facebook. Definitely go follow him. Hey, give him a call. He'll pick up the phone. We're dropping an email. Order at Nuggets info will be right there. Hey, in order to be successful in life, in business, and in network marketing, you must help others. So, Ed, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with ML Nation. We're grateful to you, and we appreciate you for having a positive impact on millions of distributors worldwide. Thank you so much again, and God bless you.
Thank you, Simon. It's a pleasure. You're a legend in this business. It's a pleasure to be teamed up with you.
Hey, ML Nation, a great show from Ed Wiens. Hey, so I'm Simon Chan. I'm fired up right now. It's an amazing show. Tons of nuggets of wisdom. I love always interviewing people who've been in this profession for a long time. And Ed's been there for over 30 plus years. And it's just incredible. Like his pastor's son was Jim Rohn, right? Back in the day. And it just tells you the timelessness of the profession. Sometimes we forget, like, there was a time, we should be grateful. There's a time when network marketing was going to be illegal. And I talked about the Amway court case where the Supreme Court actually sued Amway, and Amway won, proved that network marketing is the legitimate model, okay, and how far the profession has come and the lives that's impacted. We talked everything about one of my most impactful quotes, Zig Ziglar, if you help enough people get what they want in life, and how this business is about fishing, finding the right people. And I love we talked about the consistency is so important. Consistency is doing the same thing over and over, and then you realize the subtle changes that you need to make, right? It's like what my son with the baseball recently. He changed up his stance and the swing a little bit, getting way, way better results. He had good results and not even better results. I'm preparing for him the next level. And by the way, we also had a coach. Ed talked about a coach getting feedback and making the subtle changes. My son didn't realize it until it's the daily consistent practicing. We practice like 7 days a week, hitting the batting cage, hitting on the field, right? It's the same thing in your business, the fishing. He talked about, he had to use a heavier weight, and all of a sudden he started catching fish. It's like a lot of times, network marketers start, dabbling on Instagram a little bit, and then they want to go to TikTok right away. Then they go back to Facebook, and they go to LinkedIn, or they're doing reels, and they don't want to do stories. They're doing so much, and they get overwhelmed, and they never get good at anything. So it's really important to stay focused and consistent and not giving up. Ed talked about doing the right things over and over again, and I love that. Stop whining, start working, and someone's waiting, right? And I'll let you go through this show. I felt like at the beginning it was a little slower, and then midway it got better and better and better. And especially we went totally off the normal format. And I just love that because I love how you share the stories. And by the way, all top leaders are great storytellers. You should make that note, right? Get in front of people. And when you said that brought back memories when I first started, especially if you're shy, quiet, you're not good. Get yourself in front of people. I did Toastmasters. I'll speak in front of church. I'll speak in front of basketball camps. I'll do anything where I can speak in front of people because that was a skill that I needed to be successful in network marketing. So some of you, that's maybe some inspiration for you. It's outside your comfort zone, but you have to do that. Dreaming, right? I love this quote, right? Never believe your doubts and never doubt your beliefs. So good. And then so many notes here, but I want to share the last one is about the chicken list. That's so true. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen if you reach out to someone that you're scared to reach out to? It's not no. The worst thing is they join someone else. And yes, that's actually one of my worst moments in network marketing was I had someone that was a distant relative that I knew would be great, but I was kind of scared and I prejudged him, thought he wouldn't be interested because he was so busy doing other things. And guess what? He joined someone else, joined a different company, and just crushed it. Signed up 14 people in the first month. Okay, so don't make that mistake. Anyway, go back and connect with Ed. Follow him on social media. Give him a call. Go to the show notes page. I have all the links on there. He also recommended some great books. And make sure you subscribe. Hey, by the way, these episodes are not free, so it's up to you to keep them going. Go subscribe. I'm not asking for any money, but go subscribe and share this with someone else. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on your podcast because takes a lot of my time to prepare. And also, most important, took up a lot of Ed's time that he could be doing something else, but for him to give back. So show him some love as well. So anyway, hey, I'm Simon Chan. Make sure you apply what you learn. Stay consistent. And go make it happen. Keep fishing. Keep fishing. Know how to fish. Make those subtle adjustments and go out there and have a positive impact on someone's life today. God bless you all.